Hawkins.
Mr Speaker, I want to start off by congratulating Mr Flavel for bringing the bill to the House. One of the important duties as a Member of Parliament is about getting put before the House your own ideas, the changes you want to make. And this is a bill all about trying to make a difference. And for that reason alone, I congratulate him. But I also say to him that this bill brought about so many issues that one didn't know about when one first read it. It got more and more complicated as we got into it. And I would say to him that perhaps, given the fullness of time, we'll see another bill based on this. You see, when you come as a member to present a bill and get it off to the Select Committee, you don't have the resources that a government has to plan it for you, to look at all the fishhooks that are in it, and there are many in this bill. But no one can criticise Mr Flavel from having honourable intentions and realistic expectations that the House will want to address the fairness element of Public Works Act. You see, the Public Works Act isn't all about fairness at all. And I can say one of the submitters was the Ardmore Airport Company. And the land at Ardmore was originally there in World War II as a piece of land where they could build an airport, military airport, and of course over the years things have changed, and it's a very, very busy airport. And indeed, if this bill had proceeded, it would have caused all sorts of dilemmas for them. I think one of the worst aspects of Public Works Act that was drawn to the attention of the committee was many of the original intentions for taking land under the Public Works Act changed over time. And when you have people taking land and turning it to some other use, then people soon forget what the original use was. Ardmore as an airport turned into a teachers' college. It turned into Auckland University engineering section. It turned into housing. Now it's being used as an airport. The number 4 squadron of the Air Cadets got a base there. Helicopter services are there now. So things change over time. And what this bill needs to do is address those sort of questions, because you have a situation where many councils around New Zealand would be terrified if the bill went through unchanged. They would be scrambling, seeing what land they took under various provisions of the Public Works Act. And what are the consequences that flow on from that? Land that's been taken many years ago, now used for public reserves. Land taken for public reserves, now used for car parking. There are all these sorts of problems that people came along and made submissions. And the really interesting thing, I think, is listening to the submissions. No one was against the basic concept of being fair and making sure that land is used for the purpose that it originally was. But time is a funny thing. It changes things so dramatically. And I think most people realise that. When you have the Ardmore Airport, the Auckland International Airport there, things change quite dramatically. I can well remember how at Mangere, where the international airport is, that it was once a grass flying strip. And there were cows all around it, and now it's quite different, and it's going to continue to change. I think that when you, with the best of intentions, you make these moves under the Act. I well remember when I was Mayor of Papakura having to deal with some of these issues, and it was always a dilemma to try and change the purpose for what land was taken. And I've got to say to Mr Flavel, don't give up. Hopefully, when there is a review of the Public Works Act, that this becomes a part of that review. There is strong feeling that a lot of the land that has been taken under the Public Works Act has been Maori land. And when you have people who feel aggrieved by land being taken from them, they don't get down to the fine detail of why it was taken and what it's now being used for. It was their land, it's not being used for the purpose that it originally was. And so I think that we won't be debating this for the last time in Parliament. I hope either later on in the term of this Parliament or the next Parliament there is a new bill. And I think the challenge is to the government itself to introduce legislation and use the resources that it has to make what is a very complicated issue be presented to the House in a way that many of the problems that there are resolved. You see, when you are a member with not very many resources, it is extremely tough. Now, I can say, I think without fear of contradiction, everyone on the Select Committee took a real great interest in it. And it wasn't an interest that was anything other than genuine, and I think we did the best we could to work through some of the problems. But they were too numerous in number, and I don't think the bill could be put in a workable manner. And so the Select Committee reported back on this bill in a way that I think fairly clears out all the fishhooks. We've laid them open. The Select Committee, no one criticises Mr Flavel. I think everyone on the committee thinks, well, he did a good job. And Mr Speaker, I want to just conclude by saying, yes, there's a lot of work being done by the Waitangi Tribunal. There's lots of problems being solved. This is another one under different legislation that also needs to be addressed, and I hope that it will be. And can I finally say once more, Labour understands, has sympathy with the issue, but it's a bill in its present form that we cannot support.
I call Nicky Wagner.